you own rental property, your property manager might be the most important person on your team. In today's episode, Mike and Lindsey explain what separates great property managers from terrible ones, covering responsiveness, winter preparation, tenant screening, and why being proactive can save you thousands as a real estate investor. All this and more on the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast.
Hi, everybody. Mike Riley here with Lindsey Riley Doyle. Your new name, Lindsey. Lindsey Riley Doyle. Okay.
Good catch.
All right. I got a little bit of cold, so I'm talking a little RFK Jr. Accent. But we're going to be talking about, does your property manager suck? How's that for a compelling lead off? So Lindsey, what should a property manager be doing and what aren't they doing?
Well, I think the number one thing that comes to my mind, and having rented before in the past, now I'm a homeowner, but having rented in the past, the number one thing that comes to my mind is a property manager has to be responsive. So by responsive, we mean when a call comes in, depending on the level of urgency with that particular call, that they're getting back to them promptly. Not a week later, not 5 days later, not 4 days later, maybe not even 3 days later, but at the very least, either that same day or maybe within 24 to 48 hours, depending on the urgency of that call. So responsive is
Right.
probably the first thing that comes to my mind.
Well, I guess I could put another word in there, and that's proactive.
Mm-hmm.
They're treating your investment like their house.
Right.
And that's always the mark of anybody you want to work with, your lawyer, your accountant, your doctor, your car mechanic, the plumber. They're going to come in there and they're the pro, and they're going to be running the race without you having to push them along.
Sure.
And what I've noticed as I've gotten older, not a whole lot of people in various industries are very proactive. Most of the time, it's like I used to say a long time ago at Riley Painting and Contracting, I did this little phrase where I would tell people, listen, why are we more expensive? You don't have to be the foreman. You don't have to give us the broom. You don't have to listen to our stories about why this is taking longer or why I didn't estimate this right. You're not the foreman, but you got to pay for that. And the same thing goes with properties.
Right.
You got to be proactive. So we just are going through a little bit of a warm up, but the last 60 days have been a nightmare in Cleveland in terms of record colds, record snow, wind chills. And this is where your property manager better be on top of what's going on. You want to elaborate that?
No, absolutely. I mean, one of the tasks that we have gotten into the groove of every winter, in fact, actually leading into the winter, we don't actually do it during the winter necessarily, but prior to the winter season, our team is incredibly proactive and we go around to all of our properties, regardless if they're vacant or they're occupied, and we follow a checklist, a standard winterized checklist. Examples being, are the exterior spigots shut off? Are the central air units covered? Are the AC window units removed? Things like that. That's part of our checklist. And even when these polar vortex temperatures come in, especially at our vacant properties, we're going around, depending on the temperatures, but we're going around maybe twice a week just to check to make sure that everything's good inside the property. Because even though a property has its water shut off because the property's vacant, there might be something that cracked, or there might be a window that busted open because of the high winds, which we actually did have happen at one of our properties. Thankfully the tenant caught it because she was there, but still, it's like that kind of, to Mike's point, proactivity, assuming that rental property is like your own home.
If your property manager is not telling you to have the water turned, they need to turn the water off going into the winter and it's vacant, you have a bad property manager. That's flat out.
And at the same token, when we were going through our polar vortex, polar vortex temperatures, back in January or even around Christmas time, we made sure to talk to all of our tenants to say, hey, if you're going to be going away during the holidays and you're going to be going away for a week or maybe even longer, hey, let us know so we can come by and turn off your water.
Not only turn the water off, but here's another thing. You have to, when you have 10 below zero, when you have Alaska conditions,
Consistently, yeah.
you better make sure that the heat's working. You got to make sure that outside walls where there's a sink or a vanity, the doors are open.
Yeah.
Sometimes you almost have to leave, let the faucet do a little drip, drip, drip. Failure to do that, you could wake up to a busted pipe that could explode in a vacant house. And all of a sudden you've got, what, Mac, that Superman's house, right?
Freeze, Mr. Freeze, yeah.
This, not Mr. Freeze, this is the Superman ice castle.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen. The other thing, another thing to watch with a property manager is, are they doing background and credit checks on any new tenant? And I would say that is the number one thing the prop managers need to do is this person going to be a major liability if they're living in the house?
Right.
And there's a lot of things you can do. Just basic credit check. They're not paying their phone bill. They're not paying their cable bill, gas bill, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Their credit needs work, quote unquote.
Or I'm working on my credit.
Working on my credit. Did they talk to the former landlord?
Right.
Why is it that they're relocating? That's another buzzword on the application. Well, they're relocating because they just got evicted.
Right.
Does your property manager know that?
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. If you've been listening to this podcast, then you understand or should understand the pitfalls of investing in Cleveland real estate. Say you're looking for an investment property to rent, and these are the things that could happen and often do. You overpay for a house, and it's in the ghetto. Then you find that it's a money pit with endless surprise repairs. Your hapless property manager, who may be the brother-in-law of the realtor, gets a tenant who after 3 months stops paying the rent. Then the toilet explodes, and you have nobody to repair it because, guess what? The property manager is not answering the phone. Yep, that's the ugly side of the Cleveland real estate market. But we have a solution. Buy one of our properties. It's been inspected. It's been vetted. It's in a rock-solid part of town. It comes with a Gold Star tenant paying top dollar rent, and we manage it. Call us at 216-371-8160 if you're interested.
Believe me, your property manager is driving your car. You got to make sure they have a driver's license, they know how to drive, and it's not like you're giving it to some 13-year-old.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, especially with tenants that, say, well, I've got a couple of jobs that I'm working or, and I'm trying to work on my credit. I know it's not the greatest right now. It's like that's a caution, sometimes even a red flag.
Yeah, it depends, though. We had Mike Roman, one of our greatest tenants of all time, and he got into some bankruptcy. And why did they go into bankruptcy? I mean, that's where you need to do that X-ray, that almost MRI on their credit check. A lot of times they may have a medical bankruptcy. Yeah. They may have started their own business, student loans.
Yeah.
Suddenly, they can't get a job. They got all these student loans. That's a lot different than if they're missing a utility payment.
Absolutely. I mean, when we're looking at a rental application we've got a couple right now living in one of our rental properties, and they pay their rent on time. They take great care of the property. One of them is in medical school. The other is a lawyer. And, we conducted background checks on both of them. And, sure enough, bills are paid on time, but they had a lot of student loans. And you know what? When I see those student loans, I'm like, I already know you have student loans. I mean, you're a lawyer, you're going into residency. Of course, you're going to have loans of some sort. But as Mike said, with those kind of common utility bills, or even, talking to their landlord, which we highly recommend doing, talking to maybe their past landlords to get a sense of how were they as a tenant. You're not just asking them, hey, did they pay their rent on time? Sure, that's all well and good. But did they take care of your place?
Exactly. A lot of times, if they're in town, we'll go out and actually check where they're living.
Yeah.
I mean, is there garbage laying around? Is the garbage cans, blow it in the wind? Is the windows half open? Again, getting back to your first thing, Lindsey, you talked about being responsive. If you are a responsive property manager, you're going to get a quality tenant all the time. I have no problem talking to people and saying, I want that rent on time. And I can assure you, if you got a plumbing issue, a toilet or something like that, we're going to be out that day.
Yeah.
As long as it's not on a Sunday. Something goes wrong in the house, we're going to be out there. But you know what? I don't want this to be a one-way street. And you got to have that property manager who's got some tough love.
Absolutely.
And if you're buying your rental property from a realtor, that can be a cautionary tale. Make sure that the property manager is not their knucklehead brother-in-law who needs a job. Mm. And I have seen that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So your biggest asset, your biggest investment is this property you bought. You got to make sure you have a very proactive property manager.
Yeah, absolutely.
So final thoughts, Lindsey?
No, I always think back to when you and I was shooting our videos for Riley Properties back in, that would have been maybe 2010, 2011, 2009, kind of when I was fresh out of college. And I'll never forget when Mike said something on video that's just kind of always stuck with me when I'm looking at new tenants, working with new tenants, which is, he said, you pay the rent on time and we'll handle the rest. And that's always stuck with me, that if I'm working with a tenant who is consistently paying the rent on time, that eases my shoulders a little bit. Because, hey, you help me, you pay your rent on time, and I'm going to make sure that I follow up with being a good property manager.
Right. And it's a partnership.
Absolutely. It's a partnership. And you know what? To your point about what you were saying about, having some tough love in this business, you have to. Property manager, I've heard of property managers that just get run over by these tenants of just like, well, you're late with your rent. Oh, okay. Well, all right, you need another week to pay. No, we don't operate that way. This is a business. I got to get the investor his rent on because he's expecting to get paid. Well, that's another thing.
Right. The irony is with the property manager, why don't you get references on them?
Exactly.
Okay. Hey, Buster, Mr. Brother-in-law of the realtor, give me some names of people that you're managing their property.
Or look them up on Google. Yeah. Look up the property manager's company on Google. Look at their scores. I mean, we have a 5-star, 65 reviews on our Riley Properties page because at the end of the day, we know what we're doing.
Right. If you look at our Google reviews, you're going to see a lot of 5-star, 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 and then you're going to see the 1-star. And I know exactly who that 1-star is. That was a client who I basically told them to F off. Okay.
And then they reversed it and made us a 5-star.
Yeah.
I remember that.
No. So, no, whatever. But no, I mean, we're not looking for a lot of properties to manage. I mean, the point of this podcast is this is something you really have to take seriously because this is the person that you are entrusting that is going to be your shield, right?
Absolutely.
And if you got to start hailing calls or calling them and saying, hey, when am I going to get a tenant in here? I don't know. You may want to think about selling that property.
That's a whole nother conversation.
But definitely firing the property manager. Okay, we'll end on that sad note. All right?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast with Mike Riley. Please add our show or follow us on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. Leave a like or comment on the video. All engagement is appreciated. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well for video content coming soon. For any Cleveland listeners or Cleveland Browns fans, you can check out our other podcast, Cleveland Browns Anonymous, for our weekly group therapy session. This is also on all the same platforms as the Cleveland Real Estate Investor.